you know, I think it was my birthday or something came around, and I just got inundated with so many video messages and hearing people and their stories. It like emotionally, it brought me to tears, like to hear like the effect I've had on people. And still today, I still get emotional, like hearing this, and a lot of stuff I never share on social media about like the long messages or videos calls people send me, video messages people send me, and it's super humbling. And it's like, why the fuck would I ever feel sorry for myself? Like, I don't care if I have to live uncomfortable every single day. Like, what I'm doing is well beyond myself.
Married,
Yeah.
Transalpine,
Yep.
Euro, which I was super lucky to be a part of, with Matt Murphy as well. Traveling all around. Give us a rundown from the start of the year.
Well, yeah, 2019 been a busy year. It just seems like that each year that comes by, I'm just putting more and more on my plate. But it's because I'm surrounding myself with more and more people, you know, who strengthen my weaknesses. But yeah, this has been a big year. I guess if we start from the Transalpine race, you know, that was in, I think, around September. And yeah, Cooney came along, which was great. We were able to capture some of those moments, which I think a lot of people really resonated with, you know, because it's only so much you get on a phone, but when you get those drone shots and those perspectives from where you were, that was really cool. So it was a 273 kilometer race through the Alps. It was definitely the largest event I've done. Wasn't the hardest thing I've done. I think, you know, there was never a point where I felt like I can't do it. For both Matt or I, we have a very good relationship, and we're both very strong-willed, and we have enough aerobic and endurance base to sort of get through each day. So we're looking at something for 2020 to really sort of push ourselves, which is exciting. But we're very lucky to get over there with our sponsors, and just through hard work and having the time to get to the Alps. I don't think many Australians have ever had the opportunity to go by foot and see those 4 beautiful countries that we went through: Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Italy. And that was an incredible experience. You know, I speak to Matt now, and you know, I send him a video or a picture of both of us running, and I'm like, hashtag simpler times. You know, like all we have to worry about is getting up, running, you know, recovering and doing it all over again. So it's really special, and it was definitely memories I'll never forget. And there was a lot of, I guess, transferable benefits from that into my day-to-day life. And then, yeah, of course, Renee and I got married, which was incredible. You know, marrying your best friend and having all the people in that particular room who love and support you. You know, it's just a really special day. And we went on a honeymoon to New Zealand. Of course, it involved hiking and pushing her as well, but we definitely had a life of leisure. We ate and drank merrily. And you know, really right now I'm focusing on many projects, and it's just, you know, neck deep in a lot of that, but it's what I love. And I guess, you know, I always think about and dream about of having a day where I can just sit on the couch and do nothing. But for some reason, I never get there.
Comes and you're just like, fuck, where's the next thing?
Yeah. So I think I definitely have a deeper drive behind all this, and I obviously am infatuated with what I'm doing. And whilst I'm young and fit and able, I will do that. Yeah, it's a great place to be. Renee and I live, you know, we're very blessed in the way we live, but we work hard for it. And she's my biggest supporter. And yeah, so finishing 2019 strong, and you know, 2020 is going to be massive, so it's really cool.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm super keen to dive into your relationship, because it's a special one. And one thing that I've noticed, I mean, knowing you personally, I can see that you do have a lot of false images throughout Instagram and social media, but knowing you, I know that what you portray through social media is what it's like in real life, and that's special, and it's something that is uncommon, but it's rare and it's beautiful. So, but before we dive into that, I want to go, because both Jad and I know you quite well, but I want to start from the early days. So we know you particularly from BattleFit, which was your first business first business that you started, which was a while back, and that was brilliant. But take us back to childhood, to teenage years, through school, and really want to touch on after school, taking that gap year into the military. But from your earliest memories, what were you like growing up?
Yeah.
Pretty energetic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, I think I might have ADD. I'm not sure, but I do remember my older siblings always saying, you know, I will time you how long it takes you to do this. I'll just run around, do push-ups, run up and down. I remember doing like 200 laps of the hallway whilst I was watching TV to see how fast I could do it. Like, I've always had an excessive amount of energy. I've always been a happy kid. And I was, the youngest of 4, and my parents are still together. So I have a great family, but we have, we've faced our own adversities as a family and individually. My parents had a successful business, and they came from nothing, and they left school both at 15 and 16, and eventually, they opened up a business that made a lot of money and was doing really well, and it was quite innovative, unfortunately, my dad got sick at the age of 32, had a mental breakdown, schizophrenia, and was hospitalized, and it devastated the family. We lost a lot, both in the physical aspect, financially, and I guess emotionally as well. It was hard on the family. But as the years progressed, everyone in my family seemed to get sick: schizophrenia, bipolar, depression. Suicide was a constant worry, family members going missing, just a constant threat and stress, and that's on top of like financial stress and everything like that. So we lived in housing commission since the age of 13. That was a really hard adjustment for me. I went to a Christian school. Everyone was quite, in the middle to upper middle class, and we were just descending down as things were getting worse and worse. So starting at the age of 13, when you're trying to figure out who you are and everything, all the way through to, finishing year 12, it was a constant kind of, juggling of going, okay, do I identify myself as someone who's poor and someone who's lacking A, B, and C, and like comparing myself to my friends, and, where's my identity? Where's my worth? And, that was just, kids are cruel and kids say mean things. And that was something that I had to sort of cope with. And usually when you go through tough times as a kid, you go to your parents, or you go to your family and lean on them for advice. But if it's because your family is in a vulnerable position, you don't have that. I didn't have that. And so I had to learn a lot of self-soothing coping mechanisms to get through some of the stuff that I went through. And which is a process I'm very thankful for, and I had to mature and grow up quite quickly. So I saw things very differently to my friends. I was living in a whole suburb which was suffering with finances and broken families and stuff. I saw all the things that happened behind closed doors with these other families, and it was great. I was grateful for my family, even though what state we were in. Seeing other people who were less fortunate and in some terrible positions gave me good perspective, and it really created empathy for me. And we had a very outreaching family. We were very hospitable, always had people over from all walks of life. And, that taught me a lot of lessons. And I took that with me through my friendships and through school, not judging people by what they wear and how much money they make and, their social status, but just seeing them as equals, and that everyone deserves, someone to talk to. Everyone deserves equal opportunity. And I think it's hard not to judge, because, we're sort of designed by default to think something when you see something. There's stereotypes out there, there's all these things, but to be able to go, okay, that's my initial thought, doesn't necessarily mean it's true. I've been in this position, maybe I'll give this person, let's find out more about this person and these people. And, that really, I think, did a lot for me. My earlier days has shaped me quite tremendously.
Was that self-taught?
Self-taught, mate.
Was there anyone through an online space that you drew inspiration from? Like, how were you in that mindset at such a young age?
This is 2003 to 2008, so like that online space for me wasn't really a thing. Facebook. I was really on Facebook like year 10, and that was MySpace. You're worrying about who's your top 8 friends, or whatever. But mate, this was I think when you get to a point where it's about survival, you get desperate. There's no you know, sometimes you don't get to seek. Sometimes you're not lucky enough to have people to mentor you. You know, I felt safe within my family, but there was, I just had to really sort of piece it all together for myself. But I've always had a kind nature towards others, you know, even before, like, I was coming to an awareness that my family wasn't, you know, would say normal. But I think, it all came together to sort of be best for myself. And I think, you know, I believe I have a sense of drive and will, and the way I view other people is because of those things. So, like I said, to figure out who your identity is and we usually do lean upon like your profession, how much money you make, you know, the people around you, all these things, all these external factors. But I think at an early age, I realized, you know, it's intrinsically, I find out like my self-worth. I had high self-esteem, even though a lot of people wouldn't believe that because of where I was coming up and brought up from. So it's about not defining yourself by your circumstances, but defining yourself by how you react to your circumstances. So that was a huge lesson for me. So I was doing things and I was acting in a certain way that I wasn't even aware of until later on, going, wow, I had that mentality. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that little quote I just said there about, you know, reacting to your circumstances rather than identifying of those circumstances, I wasn't aware of that when I was doing it. Sure. But that was something that was sort of sown in time. Yeah,
absolutely, man. And it's one of those things that you learn in stages as well. Like, I believe you learn levels of these understandings. So defining yourself by your circumstances and as you mature and as you see it, and it's one of those things like you're explaining, going through all those things and not having a mentor that during those times, it's one of those things that you just got to go through to learn and experience it, and you can ask for advice. And we're in a great age where we can seek that help, but you just have to learn it by going through it, and that's in all areas of life. But so during school, so did you finish school? Go through year 12?
Yep, finished year 12.
Yeah, and you were pretty bright. You were pretty academically gifted,
savvy.
And so did school bring anything for you?
Yep, mate. I actually had a scholarship in drama. Cool. So I really enjoyed acting. I played a few lead roles, and, you know, for some time I was like, maybe this is where I should go. But I don't know, I didn't pursue that. I really enjoyed fitness and training. I was thinking about maybe being a PE teacher, or, you know, I just wasn't sold on it though. You know, I had a decent mark through my HSC, but I wasn't sold on committing 4 or 6 years to something that, you know, I wasn't just passionate for. So an opportunity came around about doing a gap year, a 1-year stint in the military full time. And a few of my schoolmates also went in, and some of them are still serving today. The guys who jumped in, and so there was a unique opportunity. It suited. It seemed like it resonated with me deeply. My grandfather was in World War II, and I have a great respect and admiration for people in the military. I knew that the physical element was attractive to me, learning unique things that you don't get to do outside of the military, and I knew it would be a real defining journey for me to just sort of let go of who I was, not even who I was, but where I was situated, and then just take on a new identity and try something new for a year. And it definitely shaped a lot. It reinforced the strengths I had. It exposed the weaknesses I had, which I could then work on. And I think it really shaped me, my mentality, and it's benefited me today, up till today and beyond.
Yeah. What was that first week, or probably whether it was the first week of being in there or the first week of like the real, like the tough training, going into the training aspect, because it was a year stint that you did.
Yeah.
What was was it tough? Like what was the reality of being in? It's something I've always wondered.
Yeah.
What's it like?
It's fascinating, because you go in, you get on a bus, you go to your recruitment center, you get on a bus, and you're with all these other guys and girls, predominantly guys. And you make your way to Kapuka, which is basic training, 3 months near Wagga Wagga. And you get there, and it's exactly what you think it would be. You're standing in line, you're in your civilian clothes, you got your bag with you, and they just start yelling at you. They start telling you what it's doing. That's really intimidating. You get head shaved. You get, here's your room. You're going to be in the next 3 months with your sort of roommate. and it's just, you are not you anymore. Like, forget everything everything that you were once. You are being indoctrinated. You're being told how to think, feel, move, and breathe. And they're trying to break you and reshape you. And it needs to happen, because when shit hits the fan and you are in circumstances that aren't normal, you need to be trained in a way that's not normal either. So there is quite some dysfunction there, but it's the best way to be trained for those moments. So 3 months of just being yelled at, scrutinized. Like, they knew that I was strong-willed, and so they spent particular time with me to break me, and so they would lift me up, and then they would try to crush me. And then they were trying to crush me for things I never did. So, I would get in trouble for things that wasn't my fault, or was blatantly just a lie from their end, to try, like, purely tactical. And I knew that. I knew it was a game. And as disappointed, like, you try your best and you get told you did things wrong. And they'd have maybe some sort of something against you, but it was only there for the best for me. I knew that it was, through fires when you get refined. And that whole self-soothing thing, I didn't need to talk to anybody to talk about my feelings or anything like that. I didn't need a mentor at the time to explain how I felt. I just knew that it was me, and me versus them. And all I cared about was the people around me. I wanted to see everyone do well. So I was always put in leadership positions, even from basic training all the way till I finished. And that's because I have the will and want to make sure people around me are doing their best. And I will put myself time and time again on the line, make myself more uncomfortable so they can get through it. So whether someone break their ankle and I take their pack, or someone's dehydrated, I give them my water, I give people my ammunition or supplies and stuff. I keep the group morale and mentality up. That was always where I felt was my role, where I thrived in, and it also helped me focus less on myself and what was going on with me in terms of hardship and adversity, by uplifting other people.
Yeah.
Did that at all come back to the fact of the hardship you guys went through as a family? Were you, even though you're the youngest in the family, did you feel that, like, that responsibility of being the happy, bright kid to try and keep the emotions high and be the leader within the family, or within the community of the housing commission, playing on the streets? Were you the kid that always the happy leader within the community?
It's funny, mate, because you're exactly right. And till this very day, I took that almost a responsibility to, not waste being mentally sound. And, I saw... I'm very empathetic towards my family members who are sick and fragile-minded, and it wasn't their choice, and knowing that I've always had a choice, and I will choose to live it my best life. I always choose to serve other people in less fortunate circumstances. Being the happy, energetic person I was, I definitely did try to live that up to that role. And out on the streets, like, there was a lot of kids who have suffered and been through a lot of stuff, and they were quite intimidating. And for me, just moving there, I was just skating down the hill with no shirt on, no shoes on, just real street beach bum. And I never had a problem with anybody, because everyone knew, guess who I was. In terms of, like, I'm just this nice, happy kid. Like, I don't want any trouble or anything like that. So everyone used to leave me alone. And, I never got in trouble with some of the kids who used to, other kids just got beaten up. Stuff got stolen from their house and stuff. But I think people saw that, I was just more of this innocent person.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's interesting how that works. I mean, more on an energetic level, but I guess when people see, like, for me, back in school, I was a bit of a smart ass. And people would leave me alone, but also they'll get super pissed off with me. And especially back in school, when you're immature and you try to test people's willpower, but you always had those people who got along with everyone. Yeah. And they could do what they want and say what they want, and everyone just loved them. So they could be a smart ass or whatever, but they just didn't push people's buttons. And it sounds like you were one of those people. Moving back, you're saying about your family before, did you ever struggle? Did you ever struggle in the mind with depression and the voice in the head?
I think emotionally I definitely struggled. Like there was moments where I was just bawling my eyes out for, you know, for a long time, just because of just the sad circumstances, you know, like.
More from an empathetic.
But both like, you know, I'm feeling my feels, you know, like self-pity. I mean, there's never once, like, I'm not saying this positive person and every day was beautiful. That's what came out of the wash. Like I was positive, optimistic, but even, you know, like waking up, no Christmas presents, or, you know, everyone's fighting, or just horrible things happening inside the family, you know, it takes a toll. You know, I would be a bit of a sociopath if I didn't feel those things. So, you know, the things I talk about with people, it's never because I've got my life sorted out. And, you know, it's because like I've been there, and this is the best way that I thought to get through that. You know, I'm not perfect and I'm not invincible either. You know, I try to make myself as vulnerable as possible when speaking to people, so they can feel like that, okay, you've been through some shit too. I mean, a lot of people only see the end result, and they think, you know, you've just went from A to Z and nothing in between. And that's, so they want that same methodology, like, oh, what's the magic pill? So I think it's important to show people that, like, no, I really struggled. And that's why it was needed to be self-soothed. You know, I wouldn't need that if it was never a hard day. But just, you know, you grow up in that environment, you adapt to it, but you also become conditioned to it, which is later in life. You know, recently in the last couple of years, I've realized how conditioned I was to a dysfunctional family and how much I was being emotionally abused and stuff like that. And no fault to theirs. You know, it's just a really horrible narrative, but I had to kind of come against it and think, okay, well, I know who I am, I know what I want, I know what's best for me and now my wife, and I know what's defined to be healthy, and what I'm currently experiencing is not it. So I have to go against that in going against your family, when they've been, like, you know, they've been the closest people to your entire life, and there's that social and culture aspect, like family first, do everything for family. Coming against that's really difficult.
Did it come to the point where you made decisions based on like the way you were feeling? Just for example, driving home from your family's place and feeling like angry, like, did it just come to a point? Obviously it wasn't an overnight thing. How did you actually make that decision? You know, I'm who I am because of me, like, not because of my family. I've created this Andrew Papp guy. And was it an over time period that you realized that you are the sum of who you're hanging around, and you need to pick who you're hanging around, I guess? Yeah,
man. I think you know, stepping away, moving. So when I got back from the army, I sort of moved out, and you know, surrounded myself with my mates and stuff like that, and got work, and sort of became my own person in that sense. And I had a very strong obligation to my family, and like, I'm the only one who's mentally sound. I'm making some money. You know, I'm looking after them, trying to look after them financially, emotionally, physically, you know, cleaning up the backyard, cleaning the garage, paying bills, buying a car, like doing as much as I can because of their position they were in. And, you know, whether I should have taken that responsibility or not, it's neither said or there, you know, that's what was happening. But for some reason, you know, I used to walk away out of that household always feeling upset or frustrated. And I couldn't pinpoint it why. I couldn't understand why they weren't seeing things from a more optimistic position, or why they couldn't see that, let's just try, you know, it doesn't matter how small the steps are, let's try to move forward. They're in a very self-victimized mentality, you know, like they know everything, you can't tell them, you know, maybe things to do to help themselves, and ways we can do that. You get your head bitten off, you know, whether you're there to help them or not. So, you know, I think having that separation in the physical realm was a good thing. I could start to identify things that, you know, okay, I know what makes me happy, and sometimes when I'm going there, I'm not happy. But what really sort of clearly defined things for me was getting in a significant relationship with Renee, and her seeing and hearing the things that were going on. And initially she's like, you know, I don't think that's normal. You know, like someone to tell you to go kill yourself, or, you know, all these horrible things. And I was just so accustomed to it. It was like, it'll just, you know, fall off the, you know, over my head, so to speak. And I used to be defensive about it. I'm like, oh, you don't understand. Like, this is what's going on. Like, you haven't known the circumstances enough, you know, like you've just got to kind of catch up. And then over time, Renee and she never ever told me not to see my family and not to do this. She was actually quite the opposite. Yeah. Even though she wasn't being reciprocated the same respect. You know, I think my family saw Renee 3 times in 4 years. And, you know, we'd organise to go and see him, and just before we get to see them, they're like, oh, no, we can't do it now. And then if I have to still come to the Central Coast, right, for work or whatever, they're like, oh, we can see you. And so I had to come to the point where like, well, it's either you're going to see me. If you're going to see me, you're going to see Renee. And that was a big step up for me, coming up saying like, I'm standing up for both Renee and I. And like, there was repercussions for that, but they end up coming around to it. But it wasn't until like I went to Renee's family over in Perth for Christmas and other occasions, and I'm like, no one's fighting. Everything seems great. Like I was tense, ready for something, and nothing happened. And so that being taken out of that environment, what I was conditioned to, and being exposed to a new environment, a healthier one, lights started to turn on. And then wedding planning and everything, our engagement and wedding planning, it all was coming out of the woodwork, and it was just exacerbated because, you know, that's such an epic moment in your life, and it's a lot of stress on a lot of people, and a lot of things have to be considered. But seeing that our feelings weren't being considered, and I was overreaching as much as I could, I still couldn't, make everyone feel good. I'm like, well, this is actually about us. And it got to the point where, my family just didn't come to my wedding. Just my brother, his wife and his daughter, Ellie. That's, a lot of people would say, that's pretty heavy. But at the end of the day, it was quite, what's the word? I don't know. Yeah, it was quite free. I felt quite free, invigorated in terms of like, I'm my own person, and this is about Renee and I. And no matter if you're family or not, if you're not here for us, then why are we even? What are we doing here? Sure. Just because I wanted my brother to come, it means they didn't want to come.
What was it about your brother?
Just a family feud that happened like 6 or 7 years ago. So I didn't speak to my brother for 5 or 6 years, and we were really close. He taught me how to surf and skate, and he was like my mentor to some extent. The more normality in my family. And then there was just a bit of a family feud. All I saw was the devastation of my parents and sister and siblings. And I just kind of said, oh, well, they must have done something wrong. And what actually occurred was something I didn't realize until recently, was that they were going through the same thing that Renee and I just went through, but I was too young to get that. And so then I took my brother's responsibility. I was like, yep, now I'm the man of the house, and I've lived that for 6 or 7 years until I came around to going, holy crap, actually, same thing happened, and we just relived it again. And so I said to him, I want my brother and Amanda and Ellie to come, and they couldn't see that for what it was. I'm like, all I'm asking is for one afternoon. And they couldn't do it. And I'm like, well, he was willing to not come just so I didn't have to go through the BS, which is all that's occurred. And I was like, no, mate, you're the only one that's considered my feelings. I said, they can either come or not. And going through that was a massive thing. And then on the day, seeing everyone who was there, was like, that's what it's about. You don't get to choose your family in terms of like your blood, but you really do get to choose the people in your life, 100%. So that was a big lesson.
I remember a lot of times, and we'll dive into the battlefield and the people that were at your wedding, just you've had a big impact on those people from battlefield days. But I remember, training with you and we having multiple meals together and catching up. And I remember you always had to race off because you were going to mow your parents' lawn or something like that. And it's a huge credit to you and the way that you've thought. And I don't know. Yeah, it's just a huge credit to the mindset that you've been able to create and realize, not a lot of boys. And there's a huge lesson here for anyone listening that. Yeah, like you just said, you don't get to choose who your family are, but you get to choose who you surround yourself with, and being so self-aware of how you feel in different situations has allowed you to make the decision that you have. That's right, man. And it's also, you don't get to choose your family, but you also get to choose how you react to things, right? So like things weren't fair, but it doesn't mean you have to be a dick about it and make other people feel worse about it. Sure. And you're either going to exacerbate and fuel the fire, that's the problem, or you're going to find a way to get around it. And I think from an early age, knowing that things aren't fair was the best lesson I learned. Yeah. Because if you're always looking for a fair fight, you're going to get disappointed and not even, you're doing yourself a disservice to think that everything has to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
And going to the battlefield days and the people that, were at your wedding, I saw like Troy and all those guys and, the collective, the gym that you have now. Yeah, let's dive into the Battlefit days and, like, you know, what did that mean to you? You created an amazing community that I was fortunate enough to be a part of there, and you know, has that given you lessons and you've been able to meet some amazing people off the back of that, some really close friends?
Mate, absolutely. Like, to be honest, if I would have invited so many more people from Battlefit to the wedding, you know, like
Battlefit wedding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even like as I was meeting Renee and I was thinking about like an engagement party or wedding and stuff, I was like, you know, I might have a wedding, because we were thinking about getting married in New Zealand originally, and I was like, I might have like something on the Central Coast, you know, like even though I'm not there as much anymore, you know, everyone has a special place in my heart, because you know, that Battlefit day, starting Battlefit was a milestone in my own life, and sort of being able to create a community that I felt was best for everybody, being able to serve other people and really reach into people and try to make some change for the better. And you know, it wasn't easy, man. Like, I got out of the military, I went to do paramedics, I passed my test, I was waiting for my enlistment dates, and then waiting for my enlistment dates, I picked up a job. I was a skilled labourer doing you know, ventilation, chip rocking, waterproofing, all this stuff, and it was hard physical work. And but even though it wasn't what I wanted to do, I did a good job at it. You know, like, I'm not going to half-ass anything. So I got to the point where I was like managing the team, and the boss wanted to give me the business when he got a little bit older, and I was like, and I guess it's just a reflection of who you are and your mentality. Like, you're not going to be able to get to exactly where you want to straight away. So you've got to work with what you got, and you got to do a good job of it. Otherwise, why do you deserve what you want? And knowing my mates were really kind to me. Two of my army mates, we were on the drinks one night, and they both said to me, you know, we know that you've got an idea, we know you can do well, but just finances are stopping you. So here, we'll loan you $5,000 each. And that was enough to get some shitty equipment and a nondescriptive white creepy van, and it might pay for my council permits and pay for my Cert 3 and 4. And so when that occurred, I left my labouring job. I told the boss what I wanted to do, and he was pretty upset about it. And I was sleeping on my sister's couch, and I was a membership consultant at a local gym. So I was just working behind the counter, but I was always out with the people at the gym, and I was always helping with technique, and I was always talking to people and getting a part of the community. And I started telling people, like, what do you think about this Battlefit idea? You know, like, you know, the army sort of inspired. It's about pushing yourself, and we work with A, B, and C, and people seemed excited about it. And
Fight your limits.
Fight your limits, yeah, that was our mantra. And so, yeah, I opened up Battlefit, and it was just this 10-week progressive fitness program. We're outdoors. It wasn't comfortable. There was, you know, duck shit on the grass. There was bindies. There was concrete floor. It was raining. It was hot. Like, and we had to work around the council and all the antics with the netball clubs and stuff like that. And so I had to pull my equipment in and out of the van every morning and every afternoon. But it was a start, and it was a humbling start. I felt very blessed to be there. And it was hard work, but the people were awesome. And what we were teaching people and the community that we were forging was really cool. And I was very tough on people back then. You know, I had this army attitude, and I was less educated in terms of training and stuff. Like, if someone was injured, I'd make a modification. I would understand if people, you know, were pushing themselves too hard, but I was also like, my warm-ups were horrible, you know?
Oh, the 5-second eccentric phase on the push-up. I remember.
Yeah.
Put up your hand if you have an injury now, boys. Just suck it up.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The countdown to get to you. Oh, what great times on the oval at CCAS.
I think people were just frothing on something different and something that was not the normal. And I really enjoyed, like, a lot of the lessons I learned in the military and putting them into Battlefit. Like, don't feel sorry for yourself. You know, everyone else is working hard. You know, you made a mistake. Everyone else has to suffer for it. Having that team ethic and ethos, and that was, and also my wanting to generally be there for people. I think it was a real magic cocktail for success in terms of building strong relationships. And yeah, we've had a few couples get married and stuff through Battlefit, the community. We've had lifetime friendships forged, and we've gone through a lot of hardships, like, you know, family members passing, hard stuff happening. and the community leans on one another, and it's a magical thing. And I tend to forget, where it started. Now it's the collective gym, and now like the Central Coast as a whole, there's a lot of people who started there, including yourself, mate, who have taken on some of those philosophies and ethos, and they've created their own magic all around the Central Coast. And I forget that it started me sleeping on my sister's couch and mates lending me some money.
So like massively, like, Lauren, one of my trainers and whatnot, and there's some bets.
Yeah.
Like the Central Coast, you really look at it now, being a part of that community. Now DMR moving across the road from the collective, really keen to get some sessions happening. But man, like, just community is so addictive, and particularly like, look, I'm not familiar with Sydney, but like, yeah, just being around that, like Betch commenting on people's photos, or me commenting on hers, or Troy, and Troy just did my fit out, and just really, it's like, it's far beyond training.
Yeah. Like,
it's far beyond training, and you can give that person a call. Like, I've seen Troy at Bellyfish before, and we crawled up, you know what I mean? Like, and it makes you feel really warm and fuzzy.
Definitely, mate. I think, like when I was a kid and I was acting a certain way and thinking about a certain way, I didn't know the in-depth of what I was actually doing until later. Same with BattleFit. Some of the things I was doing and saying, I didn't understand exactly to the depth of now I do now what was actually giving people the worth and value. And training is just a single piece in the whole entire journey, right? And that's why I think the Central Coast is a very special place. I've lived in Sydney for almost 3 years now. I'm heavily involved in the fitness industry here, and it's completely different. Sydney's very more hustle bustle. Everyone's kind of more out for themselves. There's a lot of, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out, exactly just for themselves, and people are willing to, do some pretty nasty things to try to get on top. But equally, there are some amazing people. Like, there's more dense population. It means there's more magic there as well. Yeah. Just, you've got to make sure it's just, everything's more expensive. There's a lot more stress, and people need more money, and it's a rat race. And so it's a very hard thing to balance and do the right thing. But there's a lot of good things happening in Sydney. Yeah.
What's your perspective on the rat race? Because we've spoken about it before, and it's something that we'll get to later, which I really want to talk about, and what it's all for. And you're high energy, you're always moving, you're always doing stuff, but from the outside looking in, it seems quite calculated in a way. But we're in a culture and a society where it's just the harder you work, the more successful you are. And you put that in inverted commas because it's the quote, but it's definitely a false belief a lot of the times, or misconception. Where do you fit in this society of hard work and hustle?
Yeah, mate. I'm a bit of a workaholic. I'm aware of that. I really enjoy what I do, but my work is consistently, almost exclusively, to help other people. So I think that's where I have that deeper satisfaction for myself personally, and it's forever evolving. It's always new. I think you want to work to live, not live to work. My brother is a perfect example. He's eventually he's looking at him and his wife and his daughter to just drive around Australia and sell things that they hand make at markets, and just really be in unison together. And he's a teacher, he can homeschool Ellie and stuff, and like, that to me, I'm infatuated with that idea of being nomadic, and every day is just nice and slow, and you just get to slow things down. Because for me, I'm 1,000 miles an hour. Renee's like, turn your head off. Like, I'm always talking about something that's business related or thinking related. And, I think that's just, you've got to I've got the energy and I've got the mind capacity of just about, putting it in the right direction and making sure I'm not going to burn myself out. So, I've got to be disciplined and put things into play that each and every single day I give myself time to sort of prime myself. And so for me, it's like nothing before 9 a.m. is completely my time. Yeah. So that allows me to do so much. If you're getting up at 4:30 in the morning or 5:30, like the latest. That's a good stint to yourself. Yeah, that's a massive stint. And I'm blessed to have that. And I know that a lot of people have more conventional hours in their job. but not having proper structure like I don't have a place to arrive for work. I could just piss it up and just do nothing, you know, all day, or get up at 6 a.m. and don't stop working till 12, but it's not productive at all because I'm constantly thinking about, I've got to get my training in, and what about me, and all these other things. So if I can, I also had this same word with Dave, who I'm sure you guys will speak to, but he was in the same boat. He's got 1,000 things going on, but he felt like he was losing himself and he wasn't happy and stuff like that. And I just said, mate, you just need more discipline and more structure. I operated really well in the military because I loved structure. And so to not have that, it's been a big learning curve, but you're more productive, you're more satisfied, and you get more stuff down, when you commit some time to yourself.
How do you structure yourself?
In terms of like, you know, I have a big whiteboard of things that I want to get done, medium, long-term goals, stuff I need to get done today. These are my musts. These are like if I've got time, self-development things that I would like to learn more, read more, all this stuff. Training-wise, training goals. So all these different facets that you put down on a piece of paper and you constructively and methodically find the best way to get it done. And not have an obsessive I guess pursuit of it, but understand that like you've got to do things when you don't want to do things sometimes. That's what discipline is, unlike motivation, and know that every day is not going to be perfect, and it's more about progression rather than perfection. So I will stuff up from time to time, and even saying stuff up might not be the correct vernacular to use, but I will make things don't go to plan, unforeseen circumstances, and it's just about how quickly can you get back on the horse. And
adapt. Is the hustle, I guess we could use, that you're doing now, is it for a greater purpose to be able to obviously give when you have a family, to be able to take the time to appreciate, you know, when you have a family, seeing them? Like, the hustle that you have now, is it something that you envision slowing down and realizing that, you know, I'm going to have to make sacrifices now to be able to provide for a family and be able to, like, where does that come into play?
Definitely, mate. Like thinking long term, absolutely. I want to, you know, I know what it's like to be financially pressed. I know the stress that places people under, and if I can, you know, negate that by putting the work in now, then that's great. You know, I enjoy living a comfortable life, and I want to live. You know, I want to have freedom, and if there's avenues to do that, I'll work for it. But at the same time, man, like I work hard because I love seeing what the effect it can have on people. And you know, even with the 365 program, you know, I think it was my birthday or something came around, and I just got inundated with so many video messages and hearing people and their stories. It like emotionally, it brought me to tears, like to hear like the effect I've had on people. And still today I still get emotional like hearing this, and a lot of stuff I never share on social media about like the long messages or videos calls people send me, video messages people send me, and it's super humbling. And it's like, why the fuck would I ever feel sorry for myself? Like, I don't care if I have to live uncomfortable every single day. Like what I'm doing is well beyond myself.
Yeah, and I think that me and Cooney have spoken about it a lot, and we talked about you know, having girlfriends that it's like that balance, that juggling that between I'm chasing my purpose and what I've been put on this earth to do, but also being able to take the tap off and just being in the moment with your girlfriend, or for your instance, your wife.
Mate, I've been a ghost of a man many times around Renee. You know, like we're sitting together, but I'm not there. I'm on my laptop, I'm on my phone, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I think you've got to being out of balance is one thing. But knowing that you're out of balance only at certain stages in your life, like, I've got to be a bit more work orientated for the next couple of weeks, or I've got to be more orientated around my relationships. I can be more orientated around my training. It has to be an ebb and flow. Nothing can be too rigid and too fixed. Otherwise, you're going to be chasing yourself and thinking, fuck, I didn't get my training done, or shit, I didn't get this done for my wife, and all that stuff. So it's about being content in a state of almost chaos, but all at the same time, like not losing yourself, you know, and appreciating, like, you know, there's no point with your significant other hanging around if you're not going to be there for them. And put things in perspective, like, you know, what does your partner do and give you, you know, and are you giving equally? Are you, you know, or are you giving more? So that's really, and that's with not just your significant other, but every relationship you have. I think everyone leaves imprints on one another. You know, whether it's a long-term imprint or it's something that's brief, as you know, you walk past someone and they smile, or is it negative or positive? Like, we all leave imprints on one another, and what imprint are you leaving on other people, and what are they doing for you, and is it balanced, and does something need to change? And don't overextend yourself to try to fix things. If then no one's not going to budge, you just cut it off.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing that people probably put past you about your career or your purpose or whatever it might be, that you would want people to know about you.
So for me, you know, I'm trying to be as real as possible, and I try to put out content that's, you know, it's how I feel. It's stuff I've been through, and it may not always be a hit with people, but at the end of the day, like, even if it gets one like, it's what I believe in, and I've chose to put it out there, and I'm still proud of it. And that's right, mate. Like, I guess I've always been, for me, like, whether I was earning $10 million or $10, like, I don't live to work. Even though I'm a workaholic, I lived for the impact I can put on other people, and it's just it's a really cool ecosystem. It's a really cool cycle. You put time and energy into people because you generally want to, and then you bear the fruit of your hard labor, is seeing them grow from that, and they may either, whether they say thank you or not, or whether you see them progress, you get something special from that. And I think, you know, we're at a time in our life and in civilization and social construct where we're not always putting the other individual in front of us. So we're not always putting the community first, and we're finding that we're getting more lonely, and we're feeling like we're, you know, out of the loop and out of touch and stuff like that. And I find, you know, if we were living in tribes of 50 to 100 people, and everyone had their special place in the community because that's what you do, and you felt like you wake up with purpose every day because you're giving to other people and you're part of something, that's what we're lacking. You know, you might, but potentially, like, some good workplaces that people create that in that workplace, or people create that within their family unit, or people create that, you know, wherever, in sport and stuff. But if for me, like you said, Jared, like, you feel like you've got a purpose on this planet and you want to live that, it's the same with me, mate. I feel like that I am in an industry of service, and I'm in the right industry. You know, like, I went to the military, and I wanted to be a combat medic, and I wanted to get to special forces, and I wanted to serve my country and serve the boys around me. And then I, you know, came out, went to that skilled laboring job, wanted to make sure everyone was happy who was working with me, wanted to make sure I was doing my job correctly, battle fit, I was looking after people, wanted the best for them. And it's just that same mentality has continued on. And I think that's why, like, I get through all these ultra endurance and tough events as well. Is like, I've grown thick skin through personal experiences, but at the same time, I never feel sorry for myself. Like, not to say I'm a robot and don't have feelings, but I can always quickly compute like what I'm feeling and going, you know what, I can either complain about it or I can keep moving forward. Feeling sorry for myself is not going to get me any answers and not going to get me any solutions. And putting things in perspective, like this, people who and most of the time I've put myself there voluntarily. You know, I've chosen to be uncomfortable. So if I can't step up and get it done, then what the fuck am I doing? And when you continually put yourself in uncomfortable circumstances, it then gives you the tools to then cope with the circumstances that you didn't choose.
Dip into the cookie jar, as Gordon's like to say.
Yeah, exactly. Dip in that cookie jar. So, mate, I don't know. I was saying earlier that, you know, people like to see the end result and they want the end result. And I wouldn't ever expect anyone to walk into a gym and see someone deadlift 300 kilos and just say, yeah, pick up the bar. Like, that person who's deadlifting that weight, or that person who has acquired fitness, has been over a long time. And there's been failures, and there's been lessons learned, there's been successes, and all this other stuff whilst balancing their life. So I believe people need to sort of
enjoy the process more.
And this is exactly what I was talking about not long ago, was why aim for something when it's the 364 days of the year getting to there sucks. Right? Whether it's aimed to have more money, whether it's aimed for a particular sport, whether it's aimed to be somewhere in your social circle, like, why aim for something if you're not enjoying it? And so I think it's, if you if you actually aim to do something where the process is enjoyable, that then the goal was probably more relative and right for you, if that makes sense.
And you get to a goal, a lot of people get to a goal, and Tony Robbins says it's not the goal, it's who you become along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
And it allows you to appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Appreciate what you've gone, like everything that you've gone through. You know, and it's like, if, for example, if you came back from your ultra marathon and you want to put on some size and put some muscle back on again, it's the process of waking up and doing it and writing out your program, and it's the process of who you're becoming along the way, the disciplines that you're implementing, that actually gets you to become that person. It's not the tangible, materialistic thing that you got that actually defines you.
Yeah, I think even that, like, Cooney, to give you a more concise answer, like for people who, I think a lot of people may see me as like this crazy person who's just constantly at it and just crushing it and doing a lot of things like that, and I try to do as much as I can, and I'm push myself, but I also start with simple steps. Like, one of my things this year was not to pee in the shower.
That's it.
I'll never not be able to do that, right? And like, this is how my brain's wired. I'm sitting there in the shower. I'm like, man, I could just do it right now. I'm like, that's because it'd be fucking easy. That's because it'd be comfortable, right?
It often gets to the point now where Tay's doing a piss and I'm in the shower doing a piss at the same time.
It's because it's convenient. It's because it's easy. But
man, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Exactly right. So it's like, if you can't do the small things, how do you expect to do the big things? So, you know, I'm not saying peeing in the shower is wrong. Sure. I mean, it could be anything for someone. It could be, if I can't get up 15 minutes earlier, if I can't go to bed at this particular time, if I can't brush my teeth every day, these small steps, it may seem token, may seem trivial to people, but like, if you can't start building a particular pattern, discipline, structure, routine, then in your one day, and then continue to repeat that, you're not going to.
Man, I love that.
That's brilliant. I'm going to give it a crack.
I really but I love the mindset behind it. The reason why. Where's Andrew Pat in the next 5 years?
Well, we just bought property in Perth.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah, thank you. So I will be moving to Perth. Maybe 12, 18 months. We'll be having kids. I can't believe I'm saying that. I'm like, I'll never be ready to have kids. Yeah. But like, this is what
you will be the kid.
Yeah, I'll still be the kid. Oh yeah, Renee's gonna have a handful. No, look, yeah, I think it's moving into that family, you know, next phase of living in life. But also, you know, kind of cutting off the fat with things. You know, cutting the fat off. Like, where should I really put my focus? It's just hard to think about where that focus is going, because I'm enjoying everything and there's results, you know, occurring with everything. So I've just, I think going to Perth is going to be a good reset for me in the next chapter. Yeah. But right now, man, like, if I can do some really crazy ultra event once a year, if I can keep my training consistent, if I can keep eating consistently, if I can keep self-developing myself, if I can keep giving to other people, if I can keep satisfying my needs with I wouldn't say entrepreneurialism, but like projects and moving forward. If I can keep working with Trek for Vets and grow that charity, if I can keep, you know, maintaining and setting routines that serve me and others, then man, I'm living a life that I'm really happy with.
That's one big whiteboard.
Yeah, yeah, it is, man. But that's how I'm choosing to live, you know. Yeah. And maybe the time will come where I make things real simple, but it's not in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And some of the brands that you worked with, it seemed like you only worked with brands that align with you. A lot of the brands that I can see that True right in front of us, and Alice, KD, seems like they're brands that you often, like, you choose who you work with based on your, like, who you are.
Yeah, man. Like, I was approached by a company called Be Spunky, and it's like a natural testosterone booster, or one of their products are. You know, hearing that, I was straight away like a little bit cautious. I'm like, what is this? And I like scrutinized the owners. I want to go over all their material and everything like that. I'm like, is this legit? I'm like, and I spoke to outside experts that aren't maybe biased to their product. And I heard, and it's all just good things. And I heard where these people are, where they came from, and what they want for other people. And I was like, man, that's great. Yeah. So it's really the product, yes, needs to be good, but it's the people behind it and the message. And if it resonates with me, if it makes sense, then it's not really an obligation for myself.
You talked about perspective earlier in the podcast, and you're talking about, you know, we all have those initial thoughts and impressions that we see on people straight away, but it's actually taking yourself back, and then like you said with Be Spunky, then like actually finding out more and then making it a judgment based on what you've learned.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's exactly right. Like you're never gonna have the answers to everything, but you're just gonna make as much be as aware as possible and try to educate on things as possible. And like, look, from 5 years now, I might look back going, can't believe I was doing that or thought that. Doesn't mean I was wrong at the time. I'm making the best decisions that I know now.
Yeah, absolutely. You're doing your best. Who inspires you? From a high level, all the way down to, and when I say high level, like your authors and big entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs, but down to, I mean, I'm sure Renee inspires you, levels you out, I'm sure, brings you back to earth. But yeah, who do you really put your attention into drawing off their knowledge?
Yeah, I think, well, Renee's been the best thing for me. She's it may not seem like it, but she's balanced me out a lot. You know, I'd be a lot more training savvy, a little bit more maybe too training focused, both on my nutrition and everything. If it wasn't for her, she's kind of like, you don't have to train twice a day. You don't have to train 3 times a day. Just relax, you know, like, oh, you're sore? Maybe you should just chill out. You're right. She's like, stop thinking, or like wind down. And, you know, so she's been a blessing in that sense. And she's also helped me readjust my values as well. You know, Renee and I had a bit of conflict at the beginning. I thought I needed to be with someone who was just equally driven in the aspect of like, this is what we're doing. I wake up every day. I'm not peeing in the shower, like all that kind of stuff, right?
I remember having that conversation with you. We were at Fitness First. Remember that ball?
Yeah, I do.
I remember, and you're going through it.
Yeah.
It was actually one of the times I've actually seen you hurting inside.
Yeah.
Like I could actually see it.
Yeah.
And that ball video nearly went viral.
That went crazy, I know. It was good. Yeah. So that, what I came to realize, you know, Renee said to me, she's like, look, I may not be doing the things you are doing, but my passion and my drive is to be the best wife and be the best mother and have the most real balanced family as possible. And I was just like, my mind was blown. I'm like, how stupid of me to think that that's not, like, what does define success? What does define as driven? Like, what is the right and what's not right? And you know, it really sort of pushed me on my ass for a second, and I felt terrible because I was like, I need someone's A, B, and C, and yeah, someone's success is completely individualized, and I'm lucky to have someone like Renee who aspires to those things and makes me want to be more like that. And I think, yeah, we do balance each other out. But to be honest, with like mentorship and people who inspire me on a greater level, I'm not the best at, you know, following other people's methodologies and stuff. What's been cool is like seeing some of these big people like Jordan Peterson, you know, Tony Robbins and all these people give out messages, and it completely resonates with me and what I've been doing for a long time. Yeah, obviously a way smaller level, but going, wow, I'm on the right track. You know, I've got these experts and these amazing people doing these things, and the things that I'm saying are the things that I believe in and have been saying. I'm like, well, I'll just keep digging into that. Not saying I don't listen to audiobooks and podcasts and do my own research and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't place value in that either. I've just kind of, I guess this is the way I've been doing things. I'm just not changing the formula.
But it still resonates with you. Just because you don't particularly have one person you looked up to doesn't mean you can't scroll past something and can have a bit of an Instagram stroll through their account and be like, you know what, he's someone that's a philosopher and psychology, and I actually resonate with that. How do you want to be remembered?
Mate, I just if I died today, all I would really care about, I mean, I'm dead, so it doesn't matter, but for me carrying now, I just would like people to go, you know, I've always felt like Andrew had my best interests at heart. Yeah. See, I don't really care about I was this fit person or had a successful businesses or anything like that. I just care about how I made people feel better. Like, I just want people who interact with me I've done something. I'm leaving the situation and they're coming out of it in a better place, you know, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah, it's nice too. Before we get to the final question, because I feel like we've skipped so many things. We're just going to have to skip to a later date on this one. But before we do, where can people find you online?
Sorry. Just took a drink. Yeah, so like Instagram at the moment, it's like probably my main, like not my main focus point, but where most people can get a lot of things. So it's Andrew_Pap_. Building another website for the 365 and other things I'm getting involved with. I'd love for people to check out Trek for Vets as well. It's just trekforvets.com.au. It's a charity that I'm running for ex-serving soldiers and their families. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think I'm always trying to be as approachable and tell people that always message me. Like, just DM me. I always go through my DMs. I delete the dick pics. And I messaged back to the people who have good questions, you know.
Cool, man. Yeah, no. So hopefully that'll filter out a couple of those.
All those speedo shoots you did back in the day.
Back in the day.
Followers.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Man. So the final question: if you could go back to, let's say, I don't know, maybe your. Yeah, maybe your pre-military self, I think is probably the best, because it sounds like you had huge transformation going through the military. That's where you built up your skin. And so let's say you're 12.
Yep.
Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give that self?
I would probably, I'd probably reference the family culture a bit more. And talk about that and discuss the things that I know now in terms of, you know, the importance of family, yes, but also the importance of self-preservation. You know, not tearing yourself to pieces to try to put someone together, I think is a huge one. I think a lot of us do overreach in our friendships and relationships, thinking it needs to be a certain thing because of what society dictates. Or it's a status quo that, you know, I need to have a happy family, or everyone needs to be happy, so I'll just rip myself apart to make that happen. I think I would have saved a lot of grief. I think I would have saved a lot of time. Not to say I'd just abandon them, but to know that don't take it personally. It's not my personal responsibility to try to level things out. So I know we've sort of covered it already, but that's probably what I would say to myself at the age of 20. Yeah. Big time.
Do you have any pieces of advice for boys that are just trying to find themselves? We had that ending question, but I really think that you made a transition leaving school to find yourself, but you weren't rushed with it. You sort of finally let it happen. Do you have a piece of advice for boys leaving school?
Massively, man. I mean, going into the military was a contrast to what the status quo is. Like, I felt like I was a step behind everyone else who was getting a degree. You know, I feel like you go to school and you get a degree. And if you're not, like, what are you doing? And so I've been not humiliated, but people have pointed things out in that sense, like, oh, you're not even well educated, or you're not being educated. And it's I think taking the time to figure out what makes you happy and satisfies you is really important. And there's not a wrong way to do it. You can't make mistakes. And another big thing is you've got to earn everything. I did this talk with a bunch of kids in Central Coast who were like, you know, in sort of leadership roles. And I was the last speaker for the day, and they all went out for lunch. And as they came back, I was already there, and I started talking to them. And I told them all that I put a $100 note on one of their chairs, and not to look for it. And I said, imagine what you could do with that $100 right now. Imagine what you could buy yourself. And I got them to think about it. And then I said, okay, in a minute, you're going to check underneath your chair. You're going to be quiet. And if you find the $100 note, you stand up and everyone else sits down. So they went off. They went scurrying, trying to find this $100 note. And they were all sitting down. No one stood up with a $100 note. And I said, I never placed a $100 note there. And everyone was super disappointed. Obviously, I was the worst person in the world. I said, but you never earned that $100. So why are you disappointed? And we do that all the time. We look at other people with their certain things and we think, I'm disappointed I don't have that. And I'm foul. Or I resent that person for having something that I don't have. And you got to really dig deep and search inside yourself. Go, have I earned any of those things that I want? You know, and are those things that I want, are they good for me? And only either acquiring those things or working for those things, you'll figure out if it's good for you or not, if it's what you need or not. But you can't ever be disgruntled or resent other people or pity yourself for other people doing things if you haven't put the work in. And if you put the work in and you don't get it, maybe it's not meant to be, you know? So that's probably my advice, man, is that you can't make mistakes. You got to put the experience and time in, and it'll all figure it out itself. Like, from where I was when I'm 20 to where I was when I was 23 to 25 to now, like chalk and cheese. And what the actions you make at a 20-year-old, you know, to an extent, won't even have an effect to who you are when you get older. So I think we live in a time and an age where kids are putting a lot of stress on themselves, a lot of expectations. And these expectations most of the times come from other people, whether it comes from these curated wallpapers on Instagram and Facebook, and hearing other kids just making a lot of money through other forms, and they think, oh, I've got to be equally as accessible because I'm successful. It's about going through the experience, you know, and not doing things that are easy. That skilled laboring job I did wasn't easy. Military wasn't easy. Everything I've gone through hasn't been easy. I've had times where I doubted myself. I had times where I did the wrong thing, but it's all led to where I am at. And that's because of being optimistic. It's because I understand and I'm aware of the factors in my life that have been difficult, but I also work on the ways to get around it, not to complain about it. It's okay to be upset about things. It's okay to feel your feelings. You have to, otherwise, you know, you're going to blow up at some point. But you know, working around it, chipping away at it day by day. Don't pee in the shower, and that's going to translate into you making your bed, and that's going to translate into getting up in the morning and doing something that's good for you, and that's going to translate into being successful at work and work into whatever. So look at the small things in your life that are changeable now, that are in your control. Even as tiny as not peeing in the shower. Like, you know, some people go, hey, Pap's successful. I'm like, I'm still not trying to pee in the shower, you know? So like, how's that for perspective? Yeah, how's that for perspective? So look at those small things, and then you start to build some momentum. You start to get a bit of success. You start to feel more confident. You start making bigger decisions, and it just rolls in, and you'll fall off, get back on where you started, and keep going. So yeah, man, I really hope that sort of resonates with someone out there. Yeah,
that was great. Awesome. Great way to finish.
Well, yeah, dude, thank you so much. And as I said before, we haven't even scratched the surface of you, but I think it took a great direction, and I think it was really important. So needless to say, there'll be an episode 2 if you're down for that.
Yep.
But man, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man, so we'll end it at that. But yeah, we really, really appreciate you coming on.
Boys, thanks for having me, and you guys are doing great things at BTG, Bridge the Gap. I think there's you know, as unprecedented sort of things can occur from what you're doing. And look, again, you know, things aren't easy, but you guys are coming from a good place, and you know, you've got the willpower to do it. I know you got the support, people around you as well, which is important, and just keep chipping away at it. I'm excited to see the next time I come on here, like where you guys are at. Yeah, I have to start my own podcast and get you guys on board.
Accountability coach right here.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Cheers, bro.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, thank you.